What's up guys, Rishi here. Welcome to this Tech Talk podcast. Today our guest is Aditya Bholah, a medical and technology researcher, a website developer and technology passionate. In this short podcast, we talk about applied medical research, artificial intelligence barriers of entry, GDPR and blockchain, and NVIDIA RTX GPUs. So let's get started.
Research one that I like is CRISPR. You have heard of it maybe. It's an extremely cheap gene editing tool that you can buy off eBay for $30 and you can start creating organisms. Not technically organisms, but edit genes.
Wow, is this legal? How do you buy it and then you just experiment?
Yes, you just buy an experiment, but you should have a little bit of background on how to edit genes. There's already easily available tutorials, and normally it's legal, everything is legal, but it's not as ethical to experiment on animals or humans.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now the kit that you can buy off eBay is not that advanced to do experiments on animals, but it's okay for editing genes in crops like maize, flour, and everything.
How is it called exactly?
CRISPR.
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 Great. How long have you been doing this? For many years?
I've just been in it around a year. I started exploring this field when I finished my A-level. In fact, I had planned to do medicine, but this is why I got interested.
This is quite a popular industry at this moment. There is also this company called 21andMe. I think it's run by the wife of Bill Gates. Your genes, they actually analyze it with their complex analytical systems that they have.
There are major startups that have recently. There's one called Ancestry. They analyze your genes and see where you have come from where you originate.
There's a lot of potential there. Also, recently I looked at GNS Healthcare. GNS Healthcare is another research organization which has been using artificial intelligence, deep learning, and programming languages such as Python with TensorFlow to find patterns in medical data.
Yeah, computer vision has got a lot of potential in the medical field. For the time being, I'm just trying to learn the different AI algorithms, machine learning algorithms, and get my foot a bit in this field. Because I don't have really a background of computer science to start with, but I'm fascinated about AI, and I think that it's the next $1 billion idea.
Actually, most companies already kind of change their mission and vision towards AI at this point. There's obviously Microsoft who has done it.
The thing is, the only company that I think is way ahead in AI is Google. They have DeepMind. There has been a conference where Elon Musk said that he was afraid of only one company. And I'm 100% sure that that company is Google. Because DeepMind has achieved a lot of breakthroughs in a limited time frame. Now there's one AI that DeepMind made, it's AlphaZero, where it just plays by himself. It plays Go by himself and learns from it. Whereas compared to the previous one, AlphaGo, he played against already simulated games that have already been played by humans, which were recorded. AlphaGo played against that. And this AlphaZero, he played against himself, and he's 10 to 100 times much more efficient than AlphaGo.
I think that's called unsupervised learning in the deep learning framework.
Yes.
And I even found that there are AI tools that are learning to write their own code. How amazing is that? They write their own code and by themselves they can create something. There's also IBM Watson, which I know you have been working on in a previous project. Even I did. So what are your thoughts on that?
was one of the first pioneer of AI because Watson was already here before DeepMind, Google, and Azure AI, everything. But Watson is much more suitable, I think, for data that has for literature, more about literature because it's knowledge based. It's mostly Wikipedia articles and all of the journals and articles from universities, labs, reports, all of this it's knowledge based. So Watson is really good in natural language processing and getting context out of text. That's why we used Watson as a platform for our project.
Any AI project, the dataset is very important, and because Watson already have such a great dataset, it's quite ideal to use. I think it also depends on the kind of project that you're doing, as you were indicating. For example, I recently looked at TensorFlow.js. This is something quite very interesting because you don't really have the problem of storage with that, and even GPUs, because what TensorFlow.js does, it runs on your client side. That is, it will be using the GPU of your client, be it a iOS device or an Android or even a desktop. At the same time, there are other frameworks and even languages such as Brain.js and even our classic Python. These also have great potential. In fact, they are already being used by millions.
The thing about TensorFlow is that it's really good in computer vision and good at predicting things using mathematical models. Things like NLP, Watson is better, and for things like computer vision and mathematical models, TensorFlow is better.
At the same time, what Watson is, it's something like a simplified version of TensorFlow. TensorFlow is very, very complex. Just for using it, you have to know a lot about statistics and even about computer science. Because when I was starting it, there were so many algorithms, for example, linear regression.
Yes, gradient descent, vector machines, all of that.
It depends on what you are trying to achieve, but at the end of the day, now there are tools to create AI apps. At this point, it's getting easier to create an AI application, be it on the robotic side or even on the software side.
But the thing about AI that I'm skeptical is how independent developers will get the huge data sets. Because the thing is, Watson and Google, they have the resource to pull out all of the data sets. They have been building up since years. So they can make long-term predictions or long-term decisions. Compared to independent developers, they can do AI, but it's not going to be long-term, or they can't get a big pattern as such, unless the data has already been opened by the government, regulatory bodies, and everything. It depends on the data, the solution, the problem that they're going to tackle, and what solution.
You listed a very good point, which is the storage and regulation of data. And I think here blockchain can be useful, especially because blockchain, what it does, it really puts the data decentralized in such a way that current or rather even future regulations can be different with regard to privacy.
The thing about blockchain, it's a really good thing, good concept, but it hasn't been thought out very well. I've been to some blockchain conferences. They have mentioned how blockchain can change this and that, how it's going to be revolutionary, but there's something big. When you talk about blockchain, the data is decentralized, so it's going to be saved on multiple servers, multiple nodes. If the node is outside of the country, for example, if you're in Europe, you're making a blockchain there, and one of the nodes are outside of Europe, they need to comply with GDPR, and GDPR states that if you're gonna have data, you must encrypt it, and it must be known by the user where it is, how it is kept, and till when it will be kept. So blockchain hasn't really tackled the issue about already placed laws on data protection and things like GDPR.
I don't know if they already have done something about it, the blockchain community, but it shows that it's evolving very fast. There are companies in Mauritius, even this blockchain company called storage.io, which will be storing your documents on a decentralized server. In fact, it's being used by many companies already. I'm gonna have a last question for you. What is your favorite technology or even programming websites?
Usually use edX and Code Academy for getting new training courses and learning about things like AI or program libraries like TensorFlow and all of that. As far as technology, I really like GPU. I really love what NVIDIA has done with these recent RTX line of graphics card GPUs, because it's really, really hard to produce consumer level ray tracing hardware at this price. Usually these ray tracing hardwares cost about $30,000 per GPU. That's only used by Disney, Pixar, and all the animation studios or game studios. Now you can trace rays at home with a $2,000 GPU. That's pretty insane.
I saw a video from Linus Tech Tips for this RTX GPU from NVIDIA.
Yeah, I know. Well, that the thing is, any platform that starts don't have as much developers, as much content on a start, but eventually it will grow, and maybe the second generation RTX GPUs will be better, will have better games, and
the hardware is there now. Now it's all up to the developers to implement their softwares onto this hardware, even with complex software such as maybe Adobe's After Effects or even Blender. This is yet to be implemented, but this would be quite very much a boost for content creators and even game developers.
And also a good thing when NVIDIA introduced its RTX lineup, it incites other companies for competition. I've recently heard that AMD is going to announce maybe ray tracing hardware, maybe the next year in its new GPUs. So even now Intel is getting on the GPU game. They are prototyping GPUs to be used, consumer level GPUs. So it's going to be good.
Currently, most laptops have Intel chips, and their chips are not that good when it comes to gaming. You really need a dedicated GPU for that.
Great for mining Bitcoins or AI.
Something that's very good now, that is, there are many cryptocurrencies. There's Ethereum, Bitcoin. You can mine for other currencies also now, because mining Bitcoin is very competitive right now. You can mine for new currencies, and this gets a greater revenue in terms of your GPU usage.
You should be well versed to know which coin to mine. If the coin turns out to be a scam, and then you have just lost time and power.
There are some blogs that I've been reading, but I can't remember the name right now. There's a list actually that's given the top 10 cryptocurrencies to mine right now, I think. Yeah. So that's it for the podcast, Aditya.
Yeah, it was great.
This video is brought to you by Namecheap. Namecheap offers affordable domains, SSL certificates, and web hosting at a cheap price. Check them out in the link in the description.